Hi all, welcome to BIAS Academy, Science and Technology audio notes for prelims and mains, Unit 5, Part 3, Chapter 1. Part is climate change and its effects on the world. And the topics which we're going to cover are climate change, global warming and greenhouse effect, effects of climate change, preventive measures, geoengineering, international efforts to combat climate change, threats of climate change on India, India efforts to address climate change, and then INDCs we will see in detail, and then next we will see NAPCC, that is National Action Plan for Climate Change, and then we will see NAFCC, and finally we will see International Solar Alliance. So let's start with our first topic, that is climate change. What is climate change? Climate change, as defined by UNFCCC, is a change that is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of global atmosphere, and that is in addition to natural climate variability observed over a comparable time period of time. For example, if there is a certain period of a certain climate which has been experienced for a certain period of time, for example 20-30 years or 40 years, we have experienced 30 degrees temperature and Mediterranean rainfall during June, July, and summer for a prolonged 3 months. This is the now normal climate pattern. If there is a sudden shift, if the temperature increases to 40 degrees or there is heavy precipitation, so then that is climate change. Okay, this might be due to direct actions or indirect actions of human beings. It can be identified as a change of mean and variability of the properties that persist for an extended period of time. Okay, what are the most important factors that contribute to climate change? One is population explosion, deforestation, green revolution, industrialization, urbanization, all these things. Population explosion, there is increased population all over the world, and increased density are the two major factors that contribute to rapid and uncontrolled consumption of natural resources. So such natural resources mostly include fossil fuels like coal, crude oil, which are consumed by human beings. And these fossil fuels like coal and crude oil are responsible for huge amounts of heat trapping gases like CO2. And then there is deforestation. Rapid deforestation for expansion of agriculture, human dwellings, timber, for roads, for railway construction. These all resulted in loss of green cover. Third is green revolution. Green revolution based intensification of agriculture, mainly using chemical fertilizers, contributed to increasing levels of methane in the air. This methane also acts as a potential heat trapping gas. Next important factor is industrialization. Increased utilization of mineral resources and consumption of fossil fuels by industries also had been responsible for release of enormous amounts of CO2, that is carbon dioxide. The next important factor is urbanization. Expansion of cities like increased population density, characteristics of urbanization, later in developing countries added the problem of huge amounts of solid waste management. Okay, this urbanization also led to huge amounts of solid waste. The improper management of such solid waste led to release of methane. So methane is a greenhouse gas. Similarly, animal husbandry, increased consumption of refrigerants, other aerosol generating substances contributed to the release of heat trapping gases. Such heat trapping gases rapidly increase the mean global surface temperatures within a short period of time and lead to global warming. Such global warming influenced various components of climate so badly that it resulted in a phenomenon of low climate change. Okay, now let's look at what is global warming and greenhouse effect. The undesirable increase in the mean global surface temperature is called global warming. The undesirable increase in the mean global surface temperature is called global warming and is a resultant of heat trapping effect of or greenhouse effect. So there is an increase in temperature, and then there is in the Earth's atmosphere the heat is trapped. This is known as greenhouse effect. Okay. Carbon dioxide released from combustion of fossil fuels, crude oil or natural gas burning fire, and then there is methane, that is CH4, from flatulent cattle, paddy fields, solid waste decomposition, and nitrous oxide, that is N2O, released during production and use of explosives and nitrogenous fertilizers. Next is perfluorocarbons, PFCs, and then HFCs, that is hydrofluorocarbons, and then SF6. What is it? Sulfur hexafluoride. From the use of refrigerants, fire extinguishers, aerosol cans, sprays, that are aerosol cans are deodorants. All these, that is CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, PFC, HFC, SF6, are responsible for greenhouse effect. The increase in the warmth of interiors of the greenhouse due to the one-way action of its screen in allowing the incoming solar radiation but blocking the outgoing is called greenhouse effect. What is greenhouse effect? Greenhouse is made up of a transparent glass. The incoming radiation or the solar radiation enters the greenhouse. Once it enters, it generates heat, but this heat is trapped inside the greenhouse. So this effect is called greenhouse effect. Since CO2 and other gases are acting as a screen of greenhouse, they are called greenhouse gases or heat trapped gases. So like the glass, CO2 and other gases. What are the other gases? Methane, nitrous oxide, perfluorocarbons, HFCs, sulfur hexafluoride, SF6. These act as a greenhouse, like the greenhouse, right? What are the impacts? Impacts and effects of climate change on the world and India. What are the impacts? Rise in sea level, impacts on climate change and agriculture, increase in atmospheric temperature, heat shock, biodiversity loss, increase in disasters, ocean acidification, changes in water cycle, migration of animals, melting of Himalayan glaciers. So let's look in detail the effects or the impacts of climate change. Rise in sea level. The major impact of climate change is rise in sea level. With increase in mean global surface temperatures, the melting of polar ice is increased rapidly, raising the mean sea level. Such a rise in mean sea level is particularly threatening to many low-lying islands. We have heard or read in newspapers or articles that Mauritius is being subjected to the rise in sea level. So they are losing their ground. For example, in submergence of coastal Florida, and submergence of Maldives, Seychelles, Mauritius, in fact coastal Bangladesh, Andaman Nicobar Islands and parts of Gujarat, West Bengal, Goa and India are subjected to submergence due to the increase in sea level. Okay, an example, and Marshall Islands in Pacific Ocean are facing submergence. Okay. Next is impacts of climate change on agriculture. Agriculture is the worst affected by climate change. The important effects include late arrival of monsoons, sudden downpour of rain that is leading to flash floods, inundation of agricultural lands, decrease in aerial persistence of rainfall, long break between two spells of rainfall. Okay, these impacts are seen all over the world. And then increase in salinity due to the rise in sea level, excessive evaporation of soil moisture are evident in rainfed areas and tropical regions of the world. The next effect is climate change can be a boon to agriculture in temperate areas, where not tropical, temperate areas. It's a boon in temperate areas. The agriculture in temperate regions is becoming more and more productive as traditional cooler areas are becoming warmer. According to Indian Network for Climate Change Assessment, for every 10 degrees rise in the mean surface temperature during the Rabi season, there is an estimated decline in wheat production by 6 million tons. These impacts will further result in the decline of agricultural productivity, rise in food inflation, malnutrition in women and children. So these are the impacts. So there is also increase in the atmospheric temperature. This factor drives huge migration of many insects towards temperate countries. These regions are already witnessing sudden outbreak of insects. This is also leading to outbreak of diseases like malaria, chikungunya, all these things. And then there is next impact is heat shock. The increase in summer temperatures in tropical regions will result in heat shock deaths. We see elderly people dying in summers due to heat shocks. Okay, this phenomenon is not only observed in India but across the world in most of the tropical countries. Next impact is biodiversity loss. Climate change also results in biodiversity loss. According to IPCC, for every 2 to 3 degrees rise in mean surface temperature may result in 20 to 30% of biodiversity loss. Remember, for every 2 to 3 degrees increase, we lose 20 to 30% of biodiversity. Okay. The next impact is increasing intensity of disasters. Climate change is evidently increasing the intensity of cyclones in different parts of the world, particularly in Indian Ocean. Recent cyclones like Falin, Hudhud, Titli, Gaza are considered to be fallout of the climate change. India, with its long coastal line, is highly vulnerable to destruction by cyclones. Next is climate change leads to ocean acidification. The process of decreasing salinity of decreasing the salinity of seawater due to increased dissolution of CO2. What is an acid? How much is the pH? Acid pH should be less than 7. Okay. The process of decreasing salinity of the seawater due to increased dissolution of CO2 in seawater is called ocean acidification. So CO2 is being added to seawater, so that's why it's becoming acid. The major impact of this is corrosion of coral reefs, which are treasures of biodiversity. Okay, there is an impact. Next one is impact on water cycle. Especially it's impacting in tropical areas. The water cycle is becoming uneven, resulting in heavy floods in some areas and drought in other areas. Next climate change impact is migration of animals. Climate change has clear impact on the migration of various animals. For example, penguins in Antarctica, polar bears in Arctic are losing their winter habitats, resulting in decline of the population. And next impact is impact on Himalayan glaciers. IPCC has estimated complete erosion of Himalayan glaciers by 2050, putting the entire north and eastern India at a risk of water scarcity. In fact, 30.2 kilometers of Gangotri Glacier is disappearing at a rate of 1.7 mm per year. For every year, or nearly 1.7 mm is being disappearing or being melted from Gangotri Glacier. Okay. Then how can we prevent this? What are the measures we need to take to prevent climate change and global warming? We have to think globally and act locally. The major preventive measure is decreasing the use of fossil fuels and increasing the dependence on renewable energy like clean new energies. Natural gas is the right clean alternative to coal. India has around 1.7 trillion cubic meters of natural gas that can be extracted for energy production. Similarly, solar energy is an emerging alternative to coal. The vast abundance in annular solar radiation is about 5,000 trillion kilowatt per hour. The expansion of wind energy, small hydropower, new energies like geothermal power, ocean wave energy can reduce carbon emissions of the country. Decreasing the crude oil consumption, mostly in transportation, that should be the priority. A variety of alternative fuels like hydrogen, CNG, LNG, biofuels can be developed to reduce the dependence on crude oil. Afforestation measures should be carried out. Massive tree planting all across urban areas, forest lands, community lands, wastelands. This helps in reduction of CO2 levels in the atmosphere. Such phenomenon is called carbon sequestration. Sequestration, I'll spell it for you. SEQUESTRATION. This carbon sequestration can result in huge benefits as plants act as carbon sinks because of the photosynthesis, and they store the carbon dioxide. The UN REDD, that is United Nations Program, REDD, assessed that 20% of greenhouse gases can be reduced by massive afforestation program. How much? 20% can be reduced. Improving the energy efficiency of electronic and electrical appliances is also considered to a great measure bringing down the carbon emissions. Expansion of LED lighting systems, display systems. It can also improve by prevention of distribution and transmission losses. So electronic appliances and electric appliances should be increased in a great measure. Okay, methane is a potential greenhouse gas and hence need to be controlled. This can be achieved by composting in a biogas plant, which prevents the release of methane. This biogas generated can be used for cooking and lighting purposes. The urban solid waste can be managed by landfills. The methane released from urban solid waste called landfill gas, if recovered, can be used as an energy source. So this could be the best alternative for the urban municipal waste. The urban solid waste generates also produces a certain gas that is called landfill gas. This can be used as an energy source if we focus on it. Next, we have to expand the use of biofertilizers, reduce the use of nitrogenous chemical fertilizers, which release these nitrogenous chemical fertilizers release the nitrous oxide, that is N2O, and other potential greenhouse gases. Next is public awareness is the key to reducing the greenhouse gases emissions. Every individual actions will be helpful in combating climate change. As said earlier, the slogan of think globally and act locally should be popularized among various stakeholders, including urban local bodies, communities, NGOs, state and central government ministries and departments. Okay, brilliant. So now let's look at geoengineering. How geoengineering would be helpful to overcome the climate change, or we'll discuss the various methods of geoengineering. What is geo? Geoengineering refers to a large-scale schemes that intend to intervene the Earth's natural ecosystems, oceans, soil, atmosphere, with the aim of combating climate change. Simply put, the geoengineering deliberately wants to alter the Earth's system on large scale with the sole objective of combating climate change. Geoengineering is being developed as the best approach to reverse many of the climate change impacts, even though there are certain concerns around the implementation. Okay, you will understand better when we see the different methods of geoengineering. First one is solar umbrella or space shield. Second one is artificial trees. Third is artificial volcanoes. Fourth is ocean fertilization. Fifth is greening the deserts. These are the methods of geoengineering. GEO, not JO. Okay, let's look at the first method of geoengineering, that is solar umbrella or space shield. These are billions of disc-like screens that are placed in the space around the Earth, which filter sunlight to the desired level. Okay, such method will enable the use and prevent of global warming and result in climate change. What are these? These are billions of discs or solar umbrellas, they are like screens that are placed around in the space around the Earth. What do? They filter the sunlight to a desired level. That is solar umbrella, or you can also call it as space shield. This is one method of geoengineering. Second is artificial trees. There are machines that can capture excessive carbon dioxide from air and is liquefied and pumped into deeper parts of the Earth, or they can be pumped into deeper parts of the ocean. These are artificial trees. Third is artificial oceans. These are machines which inject sulfates into outer atmosphere. The sulfates released during the natural volcanic eruptions can reflect the sunlight more effectively, thereby cooling the lower atmosphere. The sulfates which are released normally during volcano, they have the capacity, they can reflect sunlight more effectively. Hence, artificial volcanoes can help us cooling or reversing the global warming. What do they do in artificial volcanoes? These machines which inject sulfates into the upper atmosphere. Okay. So, fourth one, ocean fertilization. The process of dumping minerals like nitrate and iron into seawater to promote algal growth. I'll repeat, the process of dumping minerals like nitrate and iron. Why? Why do iron and nitrate are dumped into seawater? To promote algal growth. What is this called? This is called ocean fertilization. Such algal blooms will reduce the excessive dissolved carbon dioxide in the sea, preventing ocean acidification. Fifth one, the fifth geoengineering method is greening the deserts. The methods involves improving or increasing the tree cover in desert areas, which acts as an additional carbon sink. China has done it very well in its greening the deserts. So you can Google it. The programs what China has done for conservation, greening the deserts. Okay, this is about geoengineering. What is geoengineering? Geoengineering refers to large-scale schemes that intend to intervene the Earth's natural ecosystem. Intervening the Earth's natural ecosystem through engineering, that is, which engineering? Through geological engineering, is called geoengineering. What do they intervene? They intervene the Earth's natural ecosystems, they intervene oceans, they intervene soils, they intervene atmosphere. Why? With an aim to combat climate change. So what are the different methods we have seen? Solar umbrella or space shield, artificial trees, artificial volcanoes, ocean fertilization, greening the deserts. Okay, now let's look at the different international efforts to combat climate change. The first effort at international level to protect human environment was the conference held at Stockholm in the year 1972. What was it called? UN Conference on Human Environment, that is UNCHE. This is also known as popularly Stockholm Conference. When was it held? 1972. Okay, what did this conference, UN Conference on Human Environment, highlight? It highlighted the need to protect human environment from degradation and urged the member countries to come up with legislations to protect human environment. So aim is to create legislations to protect human environment. Okay, after 11 years, in 1983, the World Commission on Environment and Development was convened by UN. In short, WCED, or World Commission on Environment and Development 1983, was created to address the growing concerns about the consequences of accelerating deterioration of human environment and natural resources. The outcome of the work by WCED was a report named Our Common Future. So the outcome was they came up with a report that is called Our Common Future. There is another name for this report. It's called Brundtland Report. BRUNDTLAND, Brundtland Report. Why it's called Brundtland Report? Because the chairman of the WCED is Gro Harlem Brundtland. This report was published in 1987 and was the first to focus on global sustainability. It addressed governments, businessmen, and above all people whose welfare should be the key element for environmental and developmental policies. The report provided a comprehensive overview of major global environmental crises and suggestions of how to solve these problems. The report placed environmental issues firmly on political agenda with the aim to discuss environment and development as a single identical issue. The application of the report laid the groundwork for Earth Summit in 1992. So this report laid the groundwork. The application of this report laid the groundwork for the Earth Summit in 1992 and resulted in the establishment of UNCSD. What is UNCSD? United Nations Commission on Sustainable Development. In the year 1988, United Nations Environment Programme and World Meteorological Organization jointly established IPCC. What is IPCC? Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. UNEP and World Health Organization jointly established IPCC to probe possible occurrence of global warming. Why was IPCC established? To probe the possible occurrence of global warming. The first assessment report of IPCC came out in 1990, which without doubt highlighted the occurrence of global warming and its role in global climate change. It also mentioned that the global warming is mainly due to human actions of dumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In 1992, UN convened United Nations Conference on Environment and Development at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, at this conference, at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, at this conference, an international environment treaty called UNFCCC was adopted. What is UNFCCC or C-Cube? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. What is the objective of UNFCCC? It is to reduce and stabilize greenhouse gases. Okay, where to a level at which they do not interfere with global change or the global climate change. The treaty by itself is not mandatory. It is not mandatory, but provides for updates and protocols that can be arrived at in future. This will set mandatory reduction targets. UNFCCC was opened for signatures and entered into force on March 21st, 1994. The parties to this convention started meeting annually from 1995. Such meetings are called Conference of Parties. The meetings which are held under UNFCCC are called Conference of Parties. The COP1, the Conference of Party 1 was held in Berlin 1995. COP3 was held in Kyoto, where is it? Japan, Kyoto. And this COP3 resulted in a Kyoto Protocol. What is the main objective of this Kyoto Protocol? It is reduction of greenhouse gases by Annex 1 countries by 5% of 1990 levels by end of 2012. Kyoto Protocol came into force in February 16, 2005. Okay. The Conference of Parties 15 at Copenhagen in Denmark was considered important as it was to frame a new protocol that would continue after 2012. Basic countries, that is Brazil, South Africa, India, China, wanted another round of exemptions and US proposed voluntary emission reductions. The basic countries are Brazil, South Africa, India, China. They wanted another round of exemptions. The developed countries pledged 100 billion fund to developing countries to combat climate change. It's also known as Green Climate Fund, that is GCF. The Conference of Parties 16, which is held at Cancun in Mexico, also did not yield any breakthrough, but COP 17, which is held in Durban, South Africa, resulted in Durban Platform. Accordingly to Durban Platform, a new protocol will be developed by 2015, which will set mandatory emission reduction targets to all countries and will be operational by 2020. The COP, or the Conference of Parties 18, which is held at Doha, Qatar, resulted in Doha Gateway. At this conference, it is agreed that Kyoto Protocol will enter a second commitment period that will run for 8 years to cut greenhouse gases. The legal requirements which allow smooth continuation of protocol as agreed from January 2013. The governments have agreed to speedily work towards a climate change agreement under Durban Platform. It is applicable to all countries from 2020 and to be adopted by 2015. Developed countries have reiterated their commitment to deliver on promises of mobilizing 100 billion in dollars, that is USD, 100 billion for both adoption and mitigation. This is also called Green Climate Fund. Okay. The Conference of Party 19, it was held in Warsaw. Where is it, Warsaw? Warsaw is in Poland and it resulted in Warsaw Pact. WARSAW Pact. The Lima Conference, that is Conference 20, which is held in Lima in Peru, has decided that the new agreement will be under the UNFCCC and will reflect the principle of CBDR in light of different national circumstances. It also addresses all elements like mitigation, adoption, finance, technology development and transfer, capacity building and transparency of action and support in balanced manner. At Conference of Parties 21, which is held in Paris, that is in 2015, parties of UNFCCC reached a landmark agreement to combat climate change and to accelerate the intensity of actions and investments needed for sustainable low carbon future. Okay. The Paris Agreement builds upon the convention and for the first time brought all nations into a common cause to undertake the ambitious effort to combat climate change and to adapt to its effects with sustained or enhanced support to assist developing countries to do so. As such, it charts a new course in global climate effort. Which one? Paris Agreement. Where was this held? Conference of 21 in Paris and resulted in Paris Agreement. Okay, what is the major objective of this Paris Agreement? Is to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change by keeping a global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrialized levels, that is 1975, before the 17th century. Okay. In Conference 24, the UNFCCC, which took place in Katowice, Poland, agreed on a rule book for the implementation of Paris Agreement. Okay. COP25, that is Conference of Party 25, was held at Spain, that is in Madrid, Spain, in 2019. Okay, now let's go to the next topic, that is threats and vulnerabilities of climate change for India. Climate change has enormous implications for natural resources and livelihoods of the people. It will have a wide-ranging effects on climate and socio-economic and related sectors. Many studies indicate that the key sectors in India, such as agriculture, water, natural ecosystem, biodiversity, and health, are vulnerable to climate change. This is happening precisely at a time when it is confined with a huge development imperatives. The INCCA report warns of impacts such as sea level rise, increase in cyclonic activity, reduced crop yield in rainfed areas, stress on livestock, reduction in milk productivity, increased flooding, and spread of malaria. These changes are likely to increase the pressure on Indian agriculture in addition to the existing stress on yield stagnation. Any uncertainty in agriculture can considerably affect the food systems and thus increase the vulnerability of the large section of the resource when most of the population are poor. So what does this call for? This calls for urgency of action in reducing vulnerability to adverse impacts of climate change and enhancing adaptive capacity through sector-specific interventions and efforts. The food and nutritional security of India currently depends on the great extent on production of wheat and rice, which together constitute around 75% of total food grain production. Wheat and rice constitute around 75% of total food grain production in our country. Simulation models suggest that in absence of adoption and fertilizer benefits, and a 1 degree rise in temperature can lead to a 6 million tons drop in wheat production. So if there is an increase of 1 degree temperature, this would lead to a loss of 6 million tons of wheat. Milk production, which is increasingly becoming more important item in the food basket, may also will be adversely affected by increased heat stress. Reduced water availability owing to glacier retreat and decreased rainfall, and growing population will be subjected to water stress. Health is also likely to be adversely affected by climate change, like heat stress, vector-borne diseases, water contamination. For example, other tropical countries like India and other tropical countries, it is predicted to have an increased susceptibility of vector-borne diseases. What are vector-borne diseases? Malaria, other diseases. So malaria, dengue. So this is projected to move to higher latitudes and altitudes. So people might be subject to more diseases as well because of climate change. Okay, so these are the vulnerabilities and threats of climate change. Then, what are the efforts made by India to address these changes or climate changes? So let's look into that. India was one of the early adopters of National Climate Change Plan, that is National Climate Change Plan. When was it launched? Way back in 2008. National Action Plan on Climate Change outlines policies directed at mitigation and adaptation to combat climate change. The NAPCC, that is National Action Plan on Climate Change, outlines policies which direct at mitigation of climate change, adoption to combat climate change. India is now revisiting national missions under NAPCC in the light of new scientific information and technological advances. India is also undertaking additional interventions in areas like greenhouse gases mitigation, power generation and other renewable energy technology programs, disaster management, protection of coastal areas, and the health sector, creating capacity at different levels of government, exploring possibilities of new missions on wind energy, new missions on health, waste to energy and coastal areas, redesigning National Water Mission and National Mission on Agriculture. Subsequent to NAPCC, that is National Action Plan on Climate Change, in 2009, all state governments were requested to prepare a state action plan on climate change. So far, almost all states have prepared and submitted SAPCC, that is State Action Plans. So they have both adoption and mitigation components to address climate change impacts. All have been identified. India has introduced a clean energy cess on coal in 2010. This cess on coal feeds the National Clean Energy Fund. So whatever the money we are getting from this cess, that is clean energy cess on coal, it goes to National Clean Energy Fund, that is NCEF. When was it started? It was started in 2010. India has also made progress in adoption actions, that is NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, is India's national implementing entity for adoption of it has an adoption fund created under UNFCCC. At present, NABARD is the only NIE, what is National Implementing Entity, in the Asia Pacific region. In its capacity as NIE, that is National Implementing Entity, NABARD has generated several feasible proposals on climate adaptation. India's participation on climate change, especially in the carbon market, is a story of success. India has been proactive in its approach to the carbon market and represents a significant component of global market of clean development mechanism. It is also called CDM. When was it established? The Clean Development Mechanism. It was established under Kyoto Protocol. Okay, now let's come to the most important point, which is very important for these three topics, or the next four topics are very important for your prelims and mains. What are they? INDCs. What is INDC? Intended Nationally Determined Contributions. Next is NAPCC. Okay, what is it? National Action Plan on Climate Change. Okay, what is NAFCC? National Adoption Fund for Climate Change. Okay, let's look at INDCC. What is INDCC? Intended Nationally Determined Contributions. It is a term used under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It's a term used under UNFCCC or UNFCCC for reduction in greenhouse gas emissions that all countries signed the UNFCCC were asked to publish in 2015 their intended goals. The climate, these are, what are these INDCCs? These are climate actions which the intended member country would like to undertake under the Paris Agreement. India has submitted its INDCs to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Let's look at some of the salient features of this INDCs. It has almost around 8 points under this. The first point is to put forward and further propagate healthy and sustainable way of living based on traditions and values of conservation and moderation. Second salient point of INDC is, what is INDC? Intended Nationally Determined Contributions. Second point is to adopt a climate friendly and a cleaner path that one followed. Okay. Next is to reduce the emissions or the intensity of its GDP by 33% to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level. Simply, India assures to reduce the emissions. Fourth point, to achieve about 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel based energies by 2030. So fossil fuel based energy will be around 40%. When? By 2030. With the help of how would they do it? With the help of transfer technology and low cost international finance, including Green Climate Fund. Fifth point under INDCs, to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent. How? By additional forests and tree cover by 2030. Sixth point, to better adapt to climate change by enhancing investments in development programs in sectors vulnerable to climate change, particularly in agriculture, water resources, Himalayan region, coastal regions, health, disaster management. Seventh point, under INDCs, to mobilize domestic and new and additional funds from developed countries to implement the above mitigation and adaptation actions in view of the resources required and resource gaps. 8th point, to build capacities, create domestic framework and international architecture for quick diffusion of cutting-edge climate technology in India and for joint collaborative R&D, that is research and development, for future technologies. So these are the 9 objectives or the 9 points under INDCs. INDC is intended nationally determined contributions under UNFCCC. These are nothing but climate actions that the member countries intend to take under the Paris Agreement. Under this, we have discussed 8 points. Okay, now let's look at National Action Plan on Climate Change, or in short NAPCC. It was adopted on June 30th, 2008 with the objective of reducing the vulnerability to impact. Its main aim is to carry out mitigation and adaptation measures. There are 8 national missions which form the core of NAPCC. They represent a multi-pronged, long-term, integrated strategies for achieving key goals, that is climate change. Let's look at the 8 missions under NAPCC. What are the 8? First one is National Solar Mission. Second one is National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency. Third one is National Mission for Sustainable Habitat. Fourth one is National Water Mission. Fifth one, National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. Sixth, National Mission of Green India. 7, National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. 8th, National Mission on Strategic Knowledge on Climate Change. So let's look in detail. How many missions are there under NAPCC? And 8. What is NAPCC? National Action Plan on Climate Change. When was it adopted in India? By India? June 30th, 2008. What is the first mission? National Solar Mission. Second mission, National Mission on Enhanced Energy Efficiency. Third, Mission on Sustainable Habitat. 4, Water Mission. 5, Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystems. 6, Green India. 7, Sustainable Agriculture. 8, Strategic Knowledge on Climate Change. So now let's look at National Solar Mission. National Solar Mission was launched on January 11, 2010 with an objective of achieving 20,000 megawatts by 2022. The Government of India has raised the target of 1000 gigawatts in 2014. The main emphasis today is promoting the domestic manufacturing of solar plants and related equipment. Okay. Second mission, that is Mission on Enhanced Energy Efficiency. What is the objective of this mission? Is to create a market-based mechanism to enhance cost effectiveness and improvements on energy efficiency. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency develops energy conservation codes to guide the industry to develop energy efficient technologies. Who guides? The Bureau of Energy Efficiency develops energy conservation codes to guide the industries. Various programs have been initiated during the Performance Achieved Trade to promote efficiency in larger industries, and the STEEP program, that is Super Efficient Equipment Program, to accelerate the introduction of deployment of super efficient appliances. This National Mission on Enhanced Energy Efficiency also creates new institutional mechanism to enable the development and energy efficient strengthening of energy efficient markets. Third mission under NAPCC, that is National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. The object of the mission is to make highly livable habitats with higher energy efficiency within buildings, improved public transport, effective solid waste management, cleaner fuels, commercial viable transport system, and increased capacity building, energy conservation, building code. These are made mandatory for new and old buildings as well. The Energy Conservation Building Code 2007 is mandatory for new buildings. Okay. Fourth mission is National Water Mission. The main objective of the mission is to increase the water use efficiency by 20%. How? Through regulatory and pricing mechanisms. The mission will be implemented to ensure water resources management. Outcomes include water conservation, less wastage of water, equitable distribution of water resources across the country, The implementation of this water mission involves the preparation of state-specific plans to conserve water and a memorandum of understanding signed between Ministry of Water Resources and the Asian Development Bank for technical assistance with the objective of undertaking operationally relevant research for identifying and testing integrated flood management and mitigation strategies. Okay, let's look at the fifth mission. Fifth mission is National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. It's to protect Himalayan ecosystem, to evolve measures to sustain, safeguard Himalayan glaciers and protect mountain ecosystem and enhancing the participation of local community. Okay, now the next mission is National Mission on Green India. According to UNREDD, India can reduce 20% of greenhouse gases by afforestation activities. So this aims at increasing the tree or the forest cover and non-forest regions up to 10 million hectares. The seventh mission is National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. It is to regain the lost natural fertility and structure of the agricultural soils in the country. It promotes traditional methods of subsistence farming, use of organic manure, use of biofertilizers, biopesticides, and biocontrol methods. The mission focuses on enhancing productivity and resilience of agriculture so as to reduce the vulnerability to extreme weather events like long dry spell, flooding, moisture availability. Okay, now let's look at the last mission, that is 8th mission, National Mission on Strategic Knowledge on Climate Change. What is the objective? Is identifying the challenges in related response to climate change. This mission works with international collaboration and focuses on areas like monsoon dynamics, climate modeling, aerosol science, and also creation of research infrastructure. It identifies challenges arising from climate change, promotes the development of knowledge on climate change and diffusion of knowledge on response to these climate changes in the areas of health, demography, migration, and livelihood in off-coastal communities. Apart from this, NAPC is going to include 3 more national missions that is under it to address the impacts of climate change on human health, coastal zone pollution, and waste to energy. A new central sector scheme titled Climate Action Program was approved by the central government for 12th 5-year plan. The objective of this program is to build, Climate Action Program is to build and support capacity at the central and state level for assessing climate change impacts and formulating and implementing adequate response measures. Okay, now let's look at NAFCC. What is this? NAFCC is National Adaptation Fund. National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. What is NAFCC? National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. What is it? It is a central sector scheme which was set up in the year 2015-16. What is the aim of this? It is to support concrete adaptation activities which mitigate the adverse effects of climate change. The activities under this scheme are implemented in a project mode. The projects related to adaptation in sectors such as agriculture, under animal husbandry, water, forestry, tourism are eligible for funding under NAFCC. National Bank, that is National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, is the national implementing equity entity. In short, NIE. What is NIE? National Implementing Entity, which is that is NABARD. Under this, the states and UTs are required to prepare a project proposal in consultation with NIE. The project proposals are required to be approved by state steering committees on climate change to be eligible for consideration under NAFCC. In this discretion of the state governments to engage any organization to assist in project preparation as per the requirement. Okay, that is NAFCC. That is a fund. Okay, now let's look at International Solar Alliance, or in short it's called ISA. The Paris Declaration established ISA. What is this? It's an alliance dedicated to the promotion of solar energy among its member countries. The major objectives of this International Solar Alliance is to include global development of over 1000 gigawatts of solar generation capacity and mobilization of investments of over $1,000 billion US dollars into solar energy by 2030. What is the main objective? One is to generate 1000 gigawatts of solar power, and second one is to get investments of 2000 billion USDs by 2030. As an action-oriented organization, International Solar Alliance brings together countries with rich solar potential to aggregate global demand, thereby reducing their prices through bulk purchases, facilitating the deployment of existing solar technologies at a scale, and promoting collaborative solar R&D and capacity building. When the ISA Framework Agreement entered into force on December 6, 2017, ISA formally became a de jure treaty based on international government organizations. Where is it headquartered? The ISA headquarters, very important, it is headquartered in Gurugram. Where is Gurugram? India. Excellent. As of now, ISA Framework Agreement has been signed by 48 countries, with 19 of them also depositing the instruments of ratification with the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. The first International Summit of Solar Alliance was held on 11th March 2018, where in New Delhi, in the presence of Emmanuel Macron, the President of France. The summit mainly focused on building the momentum of International Solar Alliance, tangible projects, and financing strategies for implementation of these alliance objectives. So we have seen what is climate change and the impacts of climate change, global warming and climate greenhouse effect, and the effects of climate change. What are the preventive measures? And we have seen a new concept called geoengineering and the methods of geoengineering. After that, we have seen international efforts to combat change, how it evolved. It started in 1972, and then in 1981, and then 1992, and then finally we have seen Conference of Parties till 17. After that, we have seen India's efforts, that is NAPCC, and we have discussed 8 missions under it. And finally, we have discussed about International Solar Alliance. Where is the headquarters? It is in Gurugram. Right. Brilliant. With this, we'll end our today's lecture. If you have any doubts, if you need any suggestions or solutions, you can mail us to biasacademy@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.